So we're going to have a group of patients and their parents come up for questions and answers to give you more perspectives on what life is like after surgery. So I'd like to invite up Gabrielle and her mom, Mary Angeli, Melanie, her mom, Cecilia, Courtney and her mom, Heidi, Eve and her mom, Diana. And you can sit or stand, whatever you feel comfortable with, and we have them available for questions. And I think if we turn the mics on there, we'll be able to answer. Does anybody have a question to start out with? Okay, while we're waiting for people to get their courage up, I'd like to ask each one of the members of the panel, how long was it after surgery did you feel like you were back to normal? Or did you ever feel like you were back to normal? Let's start on that your far end.
For me, I felt like fine after like the second week, which is what Dr. Askar told me, and I felt like I could rule the world after 2 weeks.
It's pretty good. Rule the world.
My surgery was November 16th, and I started feeling normal on Thanksgiving, the 24th. But it was a good, like, solid week where I actually felt, 2 weeks where I actually felt like normal and good, and everything's fine. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, mine took a little bit longer. It was fine. Like, I wasn't in any pain or anything. I was pretty covered on that. It was more a little bit of discomfort. For me, it took maybe about 3 or 4 weeks just because, okay, little TMI, but my body, like, you know when your body sends blood to certain areas of your body just to try to heal the body a little bit quicker? So in my back, I would just get, like, these little, like, blood pools. Like, they were completely fine and normal. We called the doctor, we made sure. But it was just a lot of discomfort at that point. But, like, it would go away after that. And after that, I was completely fine. And I really wanted to get back to dance, but my doctor said wait a little bit. So, yeah.
I think I felt fine after about, like, 3 to 4 weeks. I had my surgery on December 5th. And I remember that Christmas sitting around the tree with my family and laughing really hard and being like, that feels different. But it was all okay. I was very ready to go back to school after that Christmas break. So yeah, about a month ago. Fine.
Great. Any questions from the audience? Yes, Dr. Cahill.
What were you most worried about before surgery, and what would you tell yourself now that you've gone through it?
Go ahead and just go right down the line.
For me, I'm a dancer, so my worry was dancing. Thinking about it now, I'm not that worried about it because I was dancing after like a month. So I'm kind of proud of myself as to how fast I got up and running again. And yeah, like that's what helped me keep going, like the thought of dancing again.
Like, my main struggle was that I couldn't do the things I used to. I couldn't run. I couldn't jump like I used to because I'm always seeing my sister, like, work out and jump. So it was kind of hard for me to be, like, sitting around and not being able to do the same thing. But now that I'm doing it, it's helped me motivate me more to keep on doing it. And, yeah, that was, like, my only struggle working out.
Well, for after surgery, it was definitely how my life was going to turn out with dance and with my hopeful career in modeling. But pre-surgery was definitely the anesthesia I was a little nervous for. But now I would tell myself that it was actually quite interesting how the anesthesia works, how, like, they put the mask on and they're like, okay, it's going to smell a little different. I was really prepared for the countdown, but I didn't do the countdown. But I was very prepared for that. But it was actually quite interesting how, like, you literally go to sleep and then you're, like, waking up in another room and you're like, oh, hey, fam, like, how you doing? But that was the only part I was actually, like, a little nervous for, was definitely the anesthesia.
My biggest fear before going into surgery was the pain. I had heard rumors that it was like very painful, and my second fear was a complication. So I know that they're really rare, especially at this hospital, but like infection or something like that happening, or failure of fusion, but none of that happened, and it did like hurt, I guess, a little bit, but it was kind of like getting a tooth pulled, like, or like wisdom teeth removal, like that sort of like achy pain. It wasn't anything unbearable. They had excellent pain control with the morphine and the Percocet. It's fine. So yeah.
Any question? Yes.
With regard to pain, how long did you stay on painkillers?
How long did you stay on painkillers? And parents, did you have concerns about that just because of the prevalence of addiction to pain meds these days?
It's a great question. Who wants to start?
For me, I got an allergic reaction to some of the medicines about like a week or two after surgery. So I decided that it was better for me to just like reduce the pain medications and like stop, because I figured it's better for me to like just go through the pain and have to like be itchy or like uncomfortable. And I felt like the pain was bearable for me. I had like have a high pain tolerance, so like it wasn't that annoying for me. So I just stopped taking pain medications after like 2 weeks.
She did the recommended dosage at the hospital. It was like a Percocet every 4 hours. And then we started noticing on the last day at the hospital that the actual Percocet was making her anxious. And that was causing more discomfort to her than the actual pain. She wasn't really complaining about pain. She was complaining about just being anxious because she can't move around like she used to. So at home, what I was doing on the first day was telling her that I was giving her the Percocet, but I was actually giving her Tylenol.
Moms can get away with that.
Yeah. And little by little, like in the evening, I would just give her maybe some Benadryl.
Because Percocet was giving me night.
Yeah, because she insisted that we were in the Hunger Games and I was trying to kill her. So we decided to just lay off the Percocet.
Yeah, that was not fun.
So I was on pain medication for about 10 days, 5 of those days being in the hospital. My major pain medication was oxycodone. I wanted to get off the oxycodone as soon as possible. I actually felt very nauseous on the oxys, and so as soon as the doctor and I felt comfortable taking myself off the pain medication, I was off of it. I had plenty of pills left, so I actually turned those into our local police station when they did the leftover drug drive. Don't keep those in the house. Got rid of those, but after that, when I felt pain or discomfort, and when I started dance, I would take ibuprofen just to either catch the pain before it started for dance-wise, and if I felt pain, I didn't want to take any hard drugs, so I just took a couple, like 1 or 2 pills of oxycodone just to, not oxys, ibuprofen, just to keep it like under control. So,
I'll be honest, I don't exactly remember my pain control regimen after the hospital, but it was my parents sort of were watching what I was taking it. It was fine. It was completely
managed her. I did not give you access to any of your payments.
Yeah.
I gave it to you when I thought you needed it. I monitored that.
Yeah. It was.
And if you were going to do an activity so you would feel successful, like there was something new that she hadn't done, I'd try and make sure that she was comfortable so she could start gaining ground to get back into doing things. And if that required a little bit more pain medicine, then I might give her something. But that was totally my call, not hers.
It was the same in our home. It was once she said that she wasn't feeling comfortable on medication, we basically started talking to the physician about weaning it back. And the problem for us came in when she had these blood patches, and basically it was explained that her body couldn't get through the discomfort and healing at the same time. So they didn't want us to completely take her off of everything, so that's why it was actually even 10 days. It was probably longer than we really would have even needed. But and then when she went back, it was just making sure that she didn't get to a point where she was so beyond catching it that she was in that much more discomfort. It was just a matter of just keeping it level.
We have a question from Dr. Gupta.
I have a question for the moms. Because you mentioned about the moms, somebody mentioned about the moms. What was your greatest fear about your child going through surgery?
Well, my greatest fear is that she was going to be fine. I mean, that she was going to wake up and be mobile. So I think it's like one of the doctors says, I think it was Dr. Schofferberger, I mean, she was moving. To me, that was the biggest thing. So when I went into recovery and she was moving, I was happy, you know. That was my greatest fear.
The walking, when they stand them up for the first time and they take their first walks, it's literally like the day they're born. You're just counting all fingers and excited to see them walk again. Yeah, that's the only thing. I felt very safe. The team just gives you so much information that you almost know what's going to happen before it happens. Everything they told me would happen. It was like clockwork. It was amazing. But just having the first walk was exciting.
Oh, I'm loud. You can hear me in New Jersey. For me, it was also it was actually two factors. One, waking up from the anesthesia because it was a long procedure. And two, given the fact that like almost all the nerves in your body actually originate off of the spine, I was worried about what was going to be affected and would she have any complications from it. When she did sit up in that first moment, and we actually have a funny story because Courtney didn't want to wait. When the nurse and I were pulling the blankets off of her legs to show her the proper way to roll and then sit up, Courtney just sat up. And the nurse and I looked at each other and like almost had a stroke. And she goes, "What, was I not supposed to do that?" And that was Courtney's start off on recovery. It was right out the gate, and it's been phenomenal since. So, and the funny thing is, and I think one of the big things to ask is, would you do it again? And I can tell you, absolutely. Knowing that she's not going to have issues for the future, knowing that she's not going to have to deal with this as an older person, you know what it's like to try and heal and recover. And I stubbed my toe and it took like a month to recover, you know, it's like, but I think that is one of the most important questions to ask yourself. One, what is the future going to hold if you don't do it? I know there's a lot of research and there's a lot of things that actually may even contradict, but take it in your own perspective. Keep it in your own world and see where you're going to go. But don't fear the surgery. The technology that's out there right now, and there's so many, the doctors are so educated and there's so many things going on. And pride yourself in being here today to find out all that information. I know it's overwhelming, but it is so worth it in the long run to know that your child will do just fine.
Other questions?
I'm sorry,
Dan,
I took Diana's spot there.
Go ahead.
I do have something to say on this topic. It wasn't really the surgery that I was that concerned about, but the hardest part for me in the journey between diagnosis and surgery is to actually pull the trigger and give authority, because the child cannot make that decision. And as the mother, I felt very burdened. The window is pretty big. She's diagnosed at 38. One of the doctors says he won't pull the trigger until 80. That's a big window. So that means the parent, and they're not going to say you have to have it. You have to say I want it for her. To me, that was the hardest dynamic of the journey.
Okay. Question, Jess?
Yeah. Question for you. So I had a patient a couple years ago who was super, super smart and incredibly well educated young gal, and she did great from surgery. And we spent like 2 hours with pre-operative counseling, and I felt like I covered all the bases. She came back and told me a year later she was finishing her senior high school, where she said, I still didn't appreciate how long a recovery it was until I got back to normal. She said, I wish you told me that. And I was like, I sort of thought I had, but that started me thinking, and I've tried to gain a little bit of perspective from patients since then. What could I have told you differently about, or what was one sort of bit of information you wish you'd known that maybe we don't convey? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I have one thing. I thought the hospital stay would be so difficult. That was so smooth because you have so much help. that first day back home, that was quite an adventure. And I have, yeah, and I have her twin that's going to have the surgery now. So I already know what it's going to be like, so I'm scared. But it's really, the only issue I had was going to the bathroom for the first time. I think is such a huge challenge. Has nothing to do with the scar, has nothing to do with the surgery. It's just, I think I would have done the diet different and maybe used other things to make that process faster. That's the only thing. Besides that, everything was on point.
Diana?
Dr. George was amazing.
He was amazing. I think going through their ADLs with their primary caretaker, brushing hair, showering, shower chair, just practical elements to get the patient through the day, the first few days, because you've never really taken care of your perky 13-year-old daughter who doesn't let you brush her hair anymore, and now she can brush her hair. So I think something to go through their ADLs and tell the parents this is normal. They're going to need help doing this, you know.
And everybody at their own pace. Like, I don't think there should be a set course. I think everybody should kind of just take and do, but push themselves a little bit every day. Don't be lax on it, but don't think that there's, but I would definitely warn them that there's daily functions, daily thing. Our biggest thing that we forgot, and her hair actually was about 6 inches longer at the time, was washing the hair. Our physician didn't allow.
Child life, Child 4439.
Child life, there you go.
Here we go, child life.
It was definitely a task, and we actually ended up going to a local salon and asked them if they would, because the chair would lean backwards. So, and you'll be surprised. Use your community; they will help you. And they were wonderful. They were lovely. They didn't mind, and they would wash your hair, and they would love the conversation. And again, it was also bringing awareness to scoliosis in the area.
I also think that people need to be aware that everything's situational. Everybody's goes through something different, so recovery is obviously going to be different for certain people as well. I've been talking to a girl from Indonesia who her degree was 110, and she just got surgery the 23rd of, what month is it?
It was
May. And I was standing up the day after, or a couple hours after surgery, I don't really remember, but it was the 26th when I had contacted her and asked her again, how is she doing and everything, and she said that she hasn't stood up yet. And I was like, wow, why aren't you standing up? But the doctor had told her that they didn't know if her body was ready to support her back yet. So I think everybody just needs to take into consideration and going into surgery that it's not going to be exactly the same as the person or the people that you have talked to before. So yours is obviously going to differ for certain circumstances than, say, us right here. So you say your pain medication could be a little bit longer or shorter just depending on how your body takes it. So I think that's something to keep in mind.
And there's no right and wrong.
I'd also like to add, I read a lot of scary things on the internet when I was diagnosed, and I kind of wish maybe at some point, as I was following my surgery, before I was, as I was considering surgery, some of these websites that you guys mentioned today are phenomenal, and I wish that I kind of had a list of those when I was 13.
Dr. Askar, you had a question? Oh, I'm sorry. We'll let the patient family go first. Go ahead. No, you're next.
I have a question. So physically, there's got to be something different before and after surgery. I mean, because it sounds like everything's taller.
Yeah.
Oh, you're taller.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. But as far as all the dancers, I mean, do you physically feel like you're able to do the same things? Oh, you.
The only thing different for me is I had to stretch a little bit afterwards just because my body wasn't dancing for 6 weeks, so I just had to stretch. And a lot of dancers nowadays, they're used to using their upper back. So ballet is also very, very important for dancers and anybody in general going into the surgery. Keeping your back nice and flexible is very important, and it leads to hopefully a better recovery. But I just had to learn how to use my lower back a lot more. But with help through your dance teacher and physical therapist, if you decide to use one, it's very quick and your legs are flexible. Everything's fine still. Sorry.
Other questions? Dr. Askar?
The question I had was for the parents. When did you guys feel things were back?
Feel what?
When did you guys feel things were back to normal? The kids have really, patients have one perspective of the parents.
I think it took long. What she's describing is how she felt, but I noticed that she slept more. She was healing. I'd say it took about 6 months to get her. She'd get home from school and she'd take a nap, which is not her normal thing. But of course, she was usually in the dance studio for 5 hours after school, and she wasn't going there, so she might as well take a nap. So it wasn't anything earth-shattering, but it was a process, and you could tell she was healing. There was something going on in her body that was taking her energy, that was of value, because you spend that first 6 months fusing. It's physiological, right? So I did notice that she was she's calm anyway, but she was a little more calm.
Courtney's not calm. Not at all. I would say about the same. About that 5-6 months, there was definitely more of an exhaustion factor. She was also very cautious. There was definitely more thinking about, like, oh, okay, am I allowed to do this? And we were always getting told, yes, you know what, those titanium rods are not going anywhere. But it's a psychological thing, and it's something that either she and I had to adapt to. I would see her doing something, and I'd immediately, my first response was to go and tell her, but you know what, it was like, okay, you know what, the words of Dr. Sankar kept ringing in my head, and I knew, that, like, okay, we're safe, we're fine, and if she feels good enough to finally get to that point and do it, let her do it. So, she was awesome.
I don't know if age is a factor, but for her, I would say about 2 to 3 months. The first 2 weeks back in school, she did her surgery in November. So we took that Thanksgiving break and extended it through the holidays. So she went back to school, and that first week was rough for her, just getting adjusted. She had to take a pillow to school with her because the chair was uncomfortable for her, the whole wheeling the book bag thing. But back to herself, her personality, I would say 3 months.
I think Gabriela is the exception to the rule. She was back in school in a month. No problems whatsoever. She was a little tired, but nothing out of the ordinary. I mean, she was back in dance class in 6 weeks. She was more tired then, but again, she continued, and she performed a recital exactly 4 months right after surgery. Now in April. In May. We went to New York 2 weeks ago for master classes, and we were in New York 4 days doing 2 classes a day, and she did wonderfully. I mean, I'm surprised myself. Perhaps it's not the norm, but she's doing wonderful. So her recovery has been absolutely amazing. I know Janine talked to us at the beginning and told us what to expect, but honestly, it's been more than what we had expected. So, I say.
Other questions for this incredible panel?
I have a question.
Sure.
I don't know if you, she just had hers December 29th. And I went through like especially when she came into the room that first night, major guilt. Nicole had to console. I mean, I felt like I've been the world's worst parent, that I put my child through this. I mean, I went through a guilt for a little while, and she reassured me that it's okay. And then obviously she has done very well. And with her, I noticed prior to this a depression that she kind of went in, because she was in a lot of pain and not saying anything. She has a very high pain tolerance. And so I found that not realizing that she was in a depression, now that I see how she's totally coming out of it. So that's just something to be aware. I mean, every kid is different, but I noticed that with her. And so I'm even more thankful that we found our way here too.
Well, thank you. Anyone want to comment on that?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry. I definitely that resonates with me, and that this surgery is so elective because it's like you feel fine for the most part. Maybe you have a cosmetic concern here or there, but you feel completely normal, and then you have to subject yourself to this surgery that makes you feel so not normal. And I just think that, I mean, we talked about this a little bit earlier, that you have to think about the long term. So, you know, if I ever see like a crumpled, bent old woman walking around the supermarket or the mall, I can always rest assured, like, that's not what the future holds for me because of this. And because, you know, you decide to grin and bear it for a little bit, and then you're on your way to a very healthy prognosis, and you can rest assured that you have a bright and healthy future ahead of you because of this. And it is hard because you feel so fine before. It's not like trauma or anything like that. It's elective. But I'm sorry that it was rough. But yeah, it gets better.
Okay. Well, thank you. This is an amazing panel, and especially the moms.